And to continue the conversation on climate change, migration, our next speaker is M. Christian Green, who is going to tell us how natural disasters and the unhousing of populations have exposed the connection between housing rights and civil and political rights, especially the right to vote. Christy Green is familiar to most of us. She's the editor and senior fellow of the Center for the Study of Law and Religion, or the CSLR. She is the co-editor and special content editor of the Journal of Law and Religion, associate editor of Canopy Forum, and publications manager of the African Consortium for Law and Religion Studies, or ICLAS. Christy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Yolanda. Delighted to be here today and to see this symposium come together. As some of you know, it's taken us months to put this together. Yolanda and I and our Canopy Forum associates started talking about a symposium last fall and something that might bring the U.S. South Africa together. And Yolanda and I quickly settled on housing, not only because of her own profession, but because of some actually activist work that I'm doing alongside my academic work as president of the League of Women Voters of the state of Louisiana in the US. And as many of you likely know, Louisiana has been ground zero for many of the phenomena that Ellen Detoit just spoke of. We're battered by Hurricane Katrina in 2005, which displaced many people from the city of New Orleans, many of whom have never returned. In 2020, just as the COVID pandemic was getting started, we were also slammed again by two hurricanes, Laura and Delta in the southwestern portion of Louisiana, which again displaced people. I am actually speaking from Louisiana now, from the city of Lafayette, which is positioned about midway between New Orleans and Houston along Interstate 10. So we're often a receiving city for people displaced by disaster. In fact, our former mayor during the Hurricane Laura Delta disasters expressed concern that bad actors might take advantage of our hospitality and refuse to open a shelter in our city. This contrasts with Hurricane Katrina in 2005, when our city actually hosted many people, hundreds of thousands, I believe, in a local stadium. And it's recently been the subject of an award-winning documentary, which I actually need to link to my Canopy Forum piece. So something will be coming to that essay soon. But my particular interest has been the effect of housing and homelessness or being unhoused on voting rights. I was in a webinar last fall with a national partner organization of the League of Women Voters, nonprofit Vote, and really just kind of in the middle of the presentation, out of the blue, the discussion turned to the problems of registering homeless people to vote. In the US, voting is highly dependent on where you reside. Most correspondence about registration for voting requires a physical address. In fact, most documentation about citizenship, whether it's an ID card or your driver's license, also depends on having a physical address. So when people lose their housing, they often lose access to being able to acquire and renew these very basic citizenship documents. So in my state, we actually had a meeting of the League of Women Voters with one of our local regional homeless advocates who pointed out all of these problems and told us if we were going to get into this business of registering unhoused people, we would need to be informed about how to work with traumatized populations. That's how serious the problem is. So this has prompted me, with my background in international human rights, to look back at where housing has manifested in international human rights documents. And it goes back to the origins. Housing is mentioned in 1948 in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. In the 60s, in 1966, we had the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. In 69, there was the Declaration on Social Progress and Development. And then in 76 and 96, there were the two big habitat conferences, as they're known. This is the UN Conference on Human Settlements and Sustainable Urban Development. So this has been a big of attention in international law. Interestingly, particularly in the US, economic, social, and cultural rights are often seen as different from civil and political rights. The US has famously or infamously, depending on your view, both signed and ratified the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights. Every time I talk on this topic, I check Google to see if we've ratified the International Covenant on Economic and Social Cultural Rights. And to this day, the US is one of just a handful of states around the world which has not. So the purpose of my essay is to draw attention to this crucial intersection between housing rights and civil rights and to put that on the table for further discussion. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Christy.